Hi, welcome back to Life is a Treasure podcast. I'm your hostess, Michelle Durand, and this is episode number 29. Today, I am joined with a guest, and her name is Ashley Bugge. At 34 years old, she had already lived through more heartache and adversity than most experience in a lifetime. Ashley Bugge knows triumph and tragedy. Live life with no bucket list was her husband Brian Bugge's motto. But when Brian, a naval officer, sailboat captain, and loving father, tragically perished in a scuba diving accident, Ashley would face the challenge of his absence alone in the middle of the Pacific, pregnant with their third child. While navigating grief, loss, and motherhood, Ashley persisted through the pain and found solace in writing about her husband and the love he shared with his family. What resulted was Always Coming Back Home, an emotional tale of love, adventure, tragedy, and hope. The full-length memoir, which is available for pre-order on May 19th, 2020. Since losing her husband, Ashley has devoted her life to turning her greatest tragedy into worldwide inspiration. After gaining followers from Brian's dauntless military move on a 36-foot sailboat, she used her family platform to inspire countless others. She's since founded the Stay Gold for Brian J. Bugge Scuba Diving Scholarship, a charitable organization that funds, inspires, and supports military veterans to fulfill their lifelong dream of diving in a safe environment. Her story is so inspiring, and it is such an honor and a privilege to share this space with her and you. So let's get started. Hi, Ashley. Welcome to Life is a Treasure podcast. It's such an honor to have you here.
Thank you so much.
So Ashley, I'd like to start off by asking you if you would mind just telling us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, no problem. I'm Ashley. I am a Gold Star spouse, which means I'm a military widow. My husband, Brian, passed away while he was on active duty with the Navy. I've got 3 children, ages 1, 3, and 5,
Oh.
which means I'm also a very busy lady. I'm an author. I am, oh my gosh, everything, a sailor, a scuba diver, a traveler, an adventurer, kind of everything in between. And I'm a resident of the Pacific Northwest and kind of trying to figure things out from here.
Awesome. You're an amazing, strong woman. I'm so honored to share this space with you. Before we get started, also, I just want to ask you, would you like to share your love story of you and your husband, Brian?
Yeah. So my husband, Brian, he passed away in May of 2018 in a scuba diving accident. We were stationed in Hawaii at the time. And really our love story kind of spanned decades even before that. We met when we were 20 years old, both living in Portland, Oregon. I don't know how much into detail you want me to get in this love story, but he was friends with my older brother's best friend. And my older brother was in the Army, deployed at the time, and left all of his friends with strict instructions, like, don't look at my sister, don't touch my sister, like, leave my sister alone. I was like the cute little sister of, this big burly Army guy. And of course, all of his friends were like, oh, Zach's gone. All right. Hey, what's up, Ashley? Like, I'm Tom, I'm Brian, whatever. And so I went to Zach's best friend's house one day just to hang out with his friends. And I ended up meeting Brian, my husband, soon to be eventual husband. And we hit it off. We became quick friends. We ran in the same circle of friends. And I mean, real talk, Brian fell in love with me. He fell in love with me instantly. And he was like, let's do this. I'm going to join the military. We'll get married. We'll have babies. We'll travel the world. We'll live by the ocean. Let's do this. And at 20 years old, I said, oh my God, no way. You're what? Like, you're crazy. Absolutely not. I'm 20 years old. Like, I don't even know where I want to go have dinner tonight. There's no way I want any of that right now. And we dated for a little while. And then honestly, it was just too real for me at that period of time in my life. And so he ended up joining the military. He shipped off. He went and did military life, went through the ups and downs that life had for him. I went my own way. I moved to New York, joined the AmeriCorps, traveled for a long time, and then eventually ended up back here in Portland. And by a chance encounter, we started talking on the phone one afternoon, actually one morning. And from that initial phone call, it was, oh gosh, this is still here. These feelings are still here, and it's been 10 years. And that very first phone call, we just never stopped talking. From that initial phone call back in January of 2013, we were married 10 months later. And 4 days after we got married, he deployed on a 6-month deployment. 4 days after he left on that deployment, I found out I was pregnant with our first daughter. Yeah. And he came home 6 months later to a big old belly. And we lived this really incredible life together. You know, we weathered military deployments. He was active duty in the Navy. He deployed on submarines around the world. We moved, military moves. We had children. We had 2 children. We had 2 miscarriages. Kind of everything that normal people go through. We experienced all the ups and downs of marriage, of losing family members, of traveling, of bringing babies home, of, fighting over the TV remote and whose turn it was, just everything. But we did it in this really just incredible, special way that honestly, I think only Brian and I could have ever experienced together. And we both had just this really incredible sense of adventure and wanting more from life and wanting the best, taking advantage of every single opportunity thrown at us. And so, together with our kids, we did travel the world. In 2017, when he made this big promotion at work, we had just bought a sailboat, and he basically said, we just bought this sailboat, the big yellow sailboat. What are we going to do with this? And he thought, I kind of want to sail this boat to Hawaii, where we're going to live. Is that crazy? And I said, yes, but I think you could do it. I know you could do it. And so we spent the next year getting ready, and our PCS move, our military move from Washington to Hawaii, he did it via our 36-foot sailboat, Stay Gold. Took him 3 weeks, and he sailed across the ocean. Yeah. We learned to scuba dive together. We sailed together. We hiked together. I mean, everything we just did together. And then, we moved to Hawaii, and I don't know if you're ready for me to go to that part, but
no.
Yeah.
So y'all, were you with him when he sailed the boat to Hawaii?
No. So at that point, we had a 1-year-old and a 3-year-old, and I was pregnant. At that time, that pregnancy did end up in a miscarriage, but I was pregnant, and we had planned on sailing together, but then it turned out to be just, if something went wrong, basically we didn't both want to be out there in the middle of an ocean with young kids at home, or me pregnant. And so, nope, it was him and 3 friends did that.
Okay, but he made it there safely, and he was living, and then you and the children went to meet him in Hawaii?
Yeah, so we flew over, a bunch of family and friends, met him. It was a huge celebration. He documented the entire trip on our sailboat website, which has now been included in my first book. He kept a journal of that crossing. And yeah, we met him in Hawaii, celebrated, flew home. He promoted in the Navy the next day. And then 10 days later, he went to Rhode Island for work, and I moved the kids to Hawaii.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So y'all were living in Hawaii at the time when the incident happened. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
So we moved to Hawaii in, the kids and I moved to Hawaii in August 2017.
Okay.
And he had to go to military school for a couple months, and then he flew out and met us there in September of 2017.
Okay, so y'all were still living there, and he was a scuba diver.
Yeah, so we had learned to scuba dive together. In fact, we had talked about wanting to scuba dive together when we first started dating, and by a coincidence or whatever you want to call it, he and I ended up buying each other scuba diving lessons for a birthday in 2013. Our birthdays are 2 months apart. I went to give him his birthday present, scuba diving lessons. He said, "Oh no." And he went to the fridge and got me an envelope, and it was scuba diving lessons. And we were both like, "This is insane. This is so crazy and weird." And it would only happen to us. But anyways, fast forward a few years, we had learned to scuba dive, got certified in Mexico together. And then been scuba divers since then.
Now, did he scuba dive for work in the military, as in the Navy?
He did not.
Okay.
No, he worked strictly on submarines, more or less, in the Navy. But he used his GI benefits. So as a perk of being in the military, he was able to use his GI benefits to learn. It's called the closed circuit rebreather. It's basically a specialty device, a scuba diving device that operates just a little bit differently than traditional recreational scuba equipment. And it is what is used typically in the military, but he was not in a class military affiliated whatsoever.
Okay, so he scuba dived just for recreational, as a hobby, for fun, outside of the military. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So I want to read a quote that you wrote. You said, "I was supposed to spend the rest of my life with you. And then I realized you spent the rest of your life with me. And I smile because I know you loved me until the day you went away."
Yeah.
When did you write that? And I just want to kind of take us to the point of where you wrote that.
So that's not, I can't claim credit for that. Okay. It does get me welled up hearing it.
Sorry.
I didn't write that. That's a quote, but I'm not sure who wrote it. But I definitely feel those words, obviously very, very near and dear to me, because we had planned on spending the rest of our lives together. And, like any young family, we had a 1 and a 3-year-old at home, and we just wanted to enjoy everything that life had to offer, never expecting anything like that could actually happen to us. We just weren't prepared for it. I wasn't prepared for it.
And you say like that. Would you like to explain to the audience, what happened? What took Brian away?
Yeah. So he was a part of this diving class. He had big plans of where this diving class was going to take him, where it was going to lead him. When he got out of the Navy after 20 years, he wanted to open a scuba diving shop and teach, students how to use this rebreather. Diving consumed him. It was, his list of things he loved went me, and then the kids, and then scuba diving, maybe sailing right in there as well. But diving just was a part of him. There was nothing else that compares. And scuba divers out there understand that, when you're under the water, there's just nothing else that compares to that feeling that you have there. And so I understood it, and I encouraged it, and I knew that he wanted this so bad. And so he had signed up for this class, and he was taking the class. He went, it was a Sunday morning. He woke up, and a lot of stuff had happened right before that, with the class getting canceled and rescheduled. But he woke up, and he drove out to the dive site, got on the boat, and about 2 hours later, I was at home, 6 months pregnant at the time, with our third child. And I'm sitting on the couch getting the kids ready to go to run some errands to get some stuff for the baby, and my phone rings. And, it's a Sunday morning. Normally I wouldn't answer the phone for an unknown number, probably a telemarketer of some sort. And the kids are in, the background trying to get them ready and out the door. And I just thought, years of military deployments, when that unknown number pops up, if you think that your spouse is in any sort of danger, you're going to answer the phone. And, I knew he was diving. There's always a chance something could happen underwater. Something inside told me to answer the phone, and so I answered it, kind of expecting it to be a telemarketer. And they said, Mrs. Bugge. And I said, yes. And they said, this is the manager of the dive shop. Where are you? I need to tell you there's been an accident on your husband's dive boat. And I said, what? And I sat right up, and he said, where are you? I said, what are you talking about? And he said, we need to come get you. Are you at home? Are you with your kids? Where are you? And I just started shouting no. Like, as a diver myself, I know if there's a scuba diving accident, chances are it's not, I cut myself or something small happened. Otherwise, he would have been calling me. And so I just, worst case scenario in my head, he didn't know anything. I hung up the phone. They came and picked me up. We drove to the emergency room. And I don't know, about 20 minutes later, I found out that he didn't make it.
And you were pregnant at the time?
I was 6 months pregnant. I had a 1 and a 3-year-old in the car. They had to watch as their mom ran across the parking lot to find out that he didn't make it. And I mean, really, I walked in the door, the emergency room, ran in the door, waddled in the door, and went up to the desk and, said, my husband is here. I don't know anything. He was in a diving accident. I just need to know, is he breathing? Is he alive? And the woman behind the desk said, she said, a doctor's going to come out and talk to you. I don't remember obviously exactly the phrases, but can you please take a seat? A doctor will be right out to talk to you. And I went around the corner and I saw one person that I recognized and then a really small waiting room of a couple other people. And I went right to the one person that I knew. It was one of his dive buddies. And I just said, what happened? What happened? And they all, were in tears and they didn't know anything. I said, is he alive? I just need to know if he's breathing. And nobody knew. And then one of them said something about CPR, and then just the color drained from my face. And I knew at that point, if they had done CPR on him, then there was at least one point of that time when he wasn't breathing. And then I freaked out and got up and went back to the desk. And I said, I just need to know, I'm 6 months pregnant. I'm in an emergency room. I'm panicking. I don't know where my husband is. I had kissed him goodbye 2 hours before that. And she got on her phone and she said, no one's been out to see you yet. And I said, no. And she got on the phone and she said, I need the doctor to come out and talk to the wife of patient in room number 1. And then she typed something on her computer and she said, the patient in the quiet room. And then she said that, I thought, is he in the quiet room because he needs time to recover? Like, he went through this accident and now he needs quiet time without distraction so he can heal? Or is it quiet room because I'm about to go back and see my husband dead and I didn't know? And then these double doors open and I see a doctor and a security guard walk towards me. And as soon as I saw that security guard, I just knew when she came at me and she said, Mrs. Bugge, let's go talk in this room. And I said, just tell me, is my husband breathing? Is he alive? And she said, I'm really sorry. He's not. He didn't make it. And then I just crumpled to the floor and I just screamed and cried. And I said, you don't understand. Like, this is my Brian. This is my husband. I need you to go back and fix it. And she just said, I'm really sorry. And I said, no, I need you to go. I need you to keep trying. Try again. And then all of a sudden his dive team was around me and picking me up off the floor. And she said, let's go take you to this room. And I said, no, I have to see him. I don't believe you. I have to see him. And they took me back to the quiet room and there he was. He hadn't made it.
I am so sorry for your loss. And I just want to hug you. And, I just thank you for being so vulnerable and for sharing. And my heart goes out to you. But I know that through this tragedy, you have overcome so much. And the quote that just kept coming to me all morning was by Bob Marley. You never know how strong you are until being strong is your only choice.
It's true. That's absolutely true. And with your back up against a wall, you really have one option, and that's to figure it out and move forward, or to let it take you over. Those are my two options.
And what option? Obviously, you chose the option of staying strong. What helped you through those hard times?
I mean, quite honestly, I don't feel like I'm through the hard times.
Okay.
I feel like it's been a year and a half and I'm still figuring it out, and I'm still figuring out how to not let that sadness just take over. It is literally a daily struggle. Some days it's easier than others, but in the very first few days, weeks and months, I had to make a lot of very, very real life decisions. And that was, I had to plan my husband's funeral. I had to tell my 1 and 3-year-old that their dad died and wouldn't be coming home. I had to explain to them what death even means. I had to explain what a funeral is and why all these people were crying. I had to explain why I was crying. I had to decide if I was going to stay on the island and have my baby without any family or friends near us. We were only there for the military, for his work. And honestly, after kind of the dust settled, I had to make the very real decision if I could do it. And to be quite honest and brutally honest with you, it was suicidal. I did not think that I was going to pull through that. I was 6 months pregnant. I had just lost the love of my life, and I had a 1 and a 3-year-old that needed me to take care of them, and I couldn't even take care of myself. And I remember going to the doctor. So I had moved to Boise. I decided I couldn't have the baby in Hawaii. I couldn't stay in Hawaii. And I moved to Boise, where my husband's family lived, to stay with. I lived with his sister while I figured all of this out. And I remember going to the doctor, and, part of their standard questioning, are you taking any vitamins? How's your eating? Are you suicidal? Have you had any suicidal thoughts? And they just kind of go down this list. And when they asked me that question, is, have you had any suicidal thoughts? I just started crying. I just cried and cried. And I didn't want to say yes, because I knew I felt like if I said yes, then they would come in and they would take my babies. They would take my 1 and 3-year-old, or they would make me have this baby, and then they would take that baby from me. And it was the only thing that was helping me through this, was the realization that I had to take care of these kids. And I didn't want to say no, because I really was having them. And what if I was pushing away my only chance for help to get me through this? So I didn't know what to do. I just cried. I just kept crying. And they knew what I was going through, but they still had to ask the questions. And it was terrible. It still is, it still is.
So you had your third baby, though, and you had your baby 3 months after, right?
I had her 2 months after he passed away. So I was under too much stress. My body kind of started to shut down, and they induced me when I was 35 weeks. So I had her a little bit early, but I did have her.
Okay, so thank you so much for sharing that. I know it's hard, but you're going to help so many women who maybe are where you were then. So as we continue, I just want to send you so much love, and I want to hug you through the computer. I know this is hard for you, and I know that. Will you tell us, why do you speak about it? It is so hard for you and so painful. Why do you share publicly?
For me, it's a way to hear myself talk about it and know how far I've come, and know how I felt in those deepest, darkest moments, and that I came to this crossroads, really. And I said, either I'm going to do it and I'm going to just end this pain right now, and I'm going to be done with it. And if I'm going to, I'm going to do it now. And if I'm not, then I need to make that decision that I'm not, and I need to figure out how to get through this. And when I came to that crossroads, and it was very, very, very real decision, I said, I can't do that. I'm going to figure this out. And if I'm going to, I'm going to make the best of it. And I turned this road, and I just feel like talking about it and putting it out there helps me put it further away from me. And it makes me deal with it and realize how real it was, and then see how I'm moving forward from that deep, dark place. And I know that just my personality, I'm not scared to talk to people about things. And I know a lot of people are intimidated about putting themselves out there and what people will think or say. And I'm okay with whatever people think or say about me, because it's more about me figuring this out and what this means to me and my family and my kids, and how to get through it, than anything else. And I know that there are other people in this position that might just need to feel like they can connect with somebody who gets it, or who feels it. And it doesn't matter what that dark, deep place was. For me, the worst day of my life is the day my husband died when I was 6 months pregnant and we lived in the middle of an ocean. But the worst day of somebody else's life might be the day that their dog died, or they lost their job, or, they were forced to move somewhere. And there's really no comparing. I know people think there is, but there's really no comparing what I've gone through to what you've gone through. If it's the worst day of your life, it's the worst day of your life. And I understand that feeling. And I understand the need to find a way through that and to push forward regardless of the circumstances. And so I feel like just sharing the worst day of my life and how I'm figuring it out, people can resonate with whatever that is.
Beautiful. And it gives people so much hope. When you're in that dark place and you feel alone and helpless, hearing someone who's been there and came to the other side gives people that hope and that inspiration that sometimes they just need that to get that, to turn that light. You are a light, a beacon of light into the darkness of people's life. When they're going through dark times, you are a light shining bright like a lighthouse. Like I have been through things too, and I stand here shining my light for you to see that you too can come out of that dark place and be where I am and be able to laugh and smile and have joy again and be the mother that you want to be to your children and continue the legacy of your husband and their dad for the whole world to see. Even though I've never met Brian, I can watch the video of him and see his joy and his smile and his contagiousness for life. And that right there, I see in you. And I know that that will shine through to your children. And it is such a beautiful testimony of what you have been through and the strength that you have to stand up and then not only to take care of yourself, but to help other people. And because that's what you're doing now. And I think Brian, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that Brian wrote this quote: I don't have a bucket list. I don't have a trip of a lifetime. Those are too temporal for me. Every trip is the trip of a lifetime because that could be the last trip I go on.
Yeah. He wrote that while he was sailing across the ocean. Like, he understood how important it is. I feel like a lot of people say, like, take advantage of each day. It could be your last. But then they go on about their day and don't really live those words. Brian, more than anybody else I've ever known in my life, lived those words. He really seized every opportunity to enjoy and to adventure and to do things that were important to him in case that really was his last day. And unfortunately, that last day came way too soon. But I know, without hesitation, I know that he lived his life exactly how he wanted to live it, and that he can be proud, we can be proud of the life that he lived up until that point.
Yes, and I see him living through you, and I'm sure you see him living through your children every single day. And, I have an organization that I started called Tears to Treasures, and you are such a shining example of that. Your years of tears that you are transforming into beautiful treasures, not only for yourself, for your children, but for the whole world. And, I'm just so honored to be sitting here with you and talking to you. And, I want to read another quote. I just love all of your quotes. I cannot wait to read everything you wrote. But no, I think this was from Brian, but correct me if I'm wrong. We all come from the sea, but we are not all of the sea. Those of us who are we children of the tides must return to it again and again until the day we don't come back, leaving behind only that which was touched along the way.
So he did not write that.
Okay.
But I used that for his funeral and for some memory cards that I had made for him, because it just encompasses him, like everything he did and loved and enjoyed had to do with the ocean. And maybe it's just a comforting thing, but it does feel like he's just been returned to the ocean that he wanted to be a part of so bad.
As I looked from an outsider, it's like you say he was like of the sea, he wanted to be on the water. He joined the Navy. He wanted to sail. Like, he was part of the sea. He wanted to live on the sea. Yeah. And to me, like, he lived, and then what better, like, this is not, I'm saying this with all respect, but like, he left this world in the place that he loved the most.
Yeah, he did.
Did he go back to the sea? Like, did you have, I don't know how to ask you this, but
Yeah,
I think
no,
I might
that's
have
a
seen
really,
that.
I know this sounds like a weird response to that, but I love talking about
Okay.
that specifically because
Yes.
I had him cremated, and then, we had talked about before he died, we'd had conversations of, if I die, this is what I want, and this is what I want to happen with you and the kids and your life and things like that. We'd had those conversations because of the lives that we lived. We knew, like I said, we knew it was potentially a possibility, but it doesn't mean that you actually believe it could happen. So I knew he wanted to be scattered at sea in a couple of very specific spots. But then I was contacted by this company called the Living Reef Memorial, who I'd never heard of before, but they said, we take care of our military families and we want to donate a Living Reef Memorial to you guys. And I looked it up, and it was like, if Brian had known what this was, hands down, this is what he would have picked to be. So they took some of his ashes and they mix it with, concrete and some organic material and turn it into a reef for the ocean. And so a year after he passed away, I had it flown to Hawaii and assembled a dive team. And that was my first dive after losing him. And together we all dove in the waters that he passed away at and placed this reef, which will now become a part of the ecosystem there. And so I've dived it a couple times now since we placed it. And when I was just there and saw it, there was an eel living in it. There were a bunch of fish around it. There was a crab. So it really he's become a part of the ocean. He's been put back in the ocean.
God, what a beautiful story and testimony of his life. And God, I just love this. I'm so sorry for you again, but I just love how you have just turned that tragedy into so much good and so much life again.
Thank you.
I'm just blown away by your story, and I really am. Okay, so I just kind of want to ask you, now I know you have your 3 beautiful children and you're doing some wonderful things in honor and in legacy of Brian. And I'd like for you to just share a little bit, share a few things that are going on to preserve his life and his memories and his honor. Would you like to share some things that you're working on and things you've already
that
done?
would be awesome. Okay. Yeah. So the I guess first thing and biggest thing for him was I started a scholarship in his name, which raises funds to help military veterans who want to use scuba diving as a form of rehabilitation in a safe environment. And that information can be found on my website, ashleybugge.com, under the scholarship tab for information. And then I have also authored a book called Always Coming Back Home, which will be published this September. But the ebook and the pre-orders will go live in May, which is very exciting. I've helped my kids author a book,
Wow.
Which I know we haven't talked about yet, but not the biggest, but one of the biggest struggles, when this all happened, was how do I talk to my kids who have probably never even heard the word death before? How I talk to them about what that means and what these words and these sights and these sounds are. And I know these are scary, there's a lot of things going on. And I looked for something that they could grasp onto, that wasn't like a parent telling them how to feel. It wasn't a psychologist or psychiatrist telling them what's normal and how to process things, but something by somebody who had lived through that, and with words, pictures they could grasp onto, that they understand. And there was nothing there. And my kids are a lot like me, where there's nothing off limits. Like, they'll tell it how it is. Kids by nature really have no filter. Mine don't either. And I've used kid gloves, but I've been very honest with them about this process and used words like, dying and dead and passed away and drowned and things like that, because I firmly believe kids are a lot smarter than a lot of us give them credit for it. And they're seeing, the ambulances, they're seeing the people in the house, they're seeing the tears, they know something's going on. And if you try to hide it from them, I think it's only going to do more damage. So I helped them and worked with them and some other really amazing people to put together this book, documenting their story and their journey, aimed at other kids who have lost a parent and are going through that, using words that they would use to describe grief and death and the journey that they're on. So I'm really excited about them, to give them that outlet, but even more so for other kids who are going to experience something like this, to have a tool. Other than that, I'm halfway through book 2 and have a documentary coming out in April called If Only, which details the events of Brian's death. I worked with a subject matter expert from the UK who deals with human factors and how those lead to accidents and complacency. And together with his dive team, we filmed a documentary that will premiere in April in Orlando.
Awesome. Wow. You're a busy woman.
I am.
All good things. All good
It
things.
is.
You're just like reaching out and helping so many people. Like, I just say thank you for what you're doing and serving the world with your gifts and your children's gifts. And you're a wonderful mother. So I just, you know, as a single mom, and know it's hard. And that's the hardest job in the world. Speaking of kids. And, so I have a question. Would you like to share how you came up with the name for your book, Always Coming Back Home?
Yeah. So I honestly, I think there's song lyrics, but I don't know exactly who it's by or anything. But every time Brian used to leave for work trips or deployments, or anytime he was away for any period of time, he would always say, "Don't worry, sweetheart, I'm always coming back home to you." And it was just very comforting to me. You know, I knew he'd always be coming back home. But he always would say that, or put it in emails or text messages, you know, anytime he had to leave. It was, "Don't worry, sweetheart, I'm always coming back home to you." And so, you know, in the process of writing this book, obviously he's not going to be coming back home to me, but I still feel like he's a part of this journey with me. And I'm only doing this because of the love and life that we shared. And I just feel like, in a way, all of this is because he's always coming back home to me, and he's going to be a part of this with us forever.
Yeah, beautiful. I know. I feel like home is where our heart is. And if Brian is in your heart, he's always home with you.
Yes.
Everywhere you go. So, wow, thank you so much for sharing all of this. I know it's not easy. I know it takes a lot of courage and a lot of strength to share, but I know that you are helping so many other people by speaking your story, speaking your truth, you know, to allow other people to see that I'm not alone and I can share my stories too, and not to keep it inside, because you could choose to keep it inside and not share any of this publicly.
Yeah.
But you choose to share publicly. For what is your main reason that you want to share everything publicly and do these work?
I think, especially during those early days and weeks and months, the only thing that helped me feel like there was this little glimmer of hope that I could do this was talking to people who had experienced, obviously not something necessarily the same, but were willing to talk to me about things that they were going through or had gone through, or just sharing their own experiences with me of grief or trauma. And just kind of it built from there. Like every time I said, you know, people would ask, "How are you?" knowing what I was going to say, but they weren't expecting me to say like brutally honest, "This is how I am. Like I haven't eaten anything in 2 days. I slept 45 minutes last night. Like I don't know what I'm doing. I can't get out of bed." And just being like very, very raw and transparent, and then getting feedback from people and just saying, "You talking about that is helping me because I'm dealing with this," and just kind of getting these little like boosts of confidence. And I don't know, just kind of snowballed. Like every little bit that I talked about, I just felt like I was feeling better talking about it. And other people were commenting and messaging me saying, "Thank you for saying that," or "Thank you for sharing that." You know, that's helping me. And I understand that, because when people talk about what they're going through, I don't feel like I'm alone in feeling that. I don't feel like I'm wrong for feeling this way, or like I'm crazy for having these feelings. I feel like, wow, if they felt that way or feel that way, then it's okay that I do too.
Yeah.
And so that's my motivation.
Yeah. So you found help it helped you talking to other people and also listening to other people's stories. Is that right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah. And you have such a gift. You have a voice and you're not afraid to share what you've been through. And I see that as a gift because we don't all have that gift of speaking our truth. Some people don't have the words to articulate how they feel. So I believe that we all help each other. And so there's us who can speak publicly and share. And a lot of times you might hear some people say, you said exactly how I feel. And I'm sure you get that because you do share. Yeah. And and you can put into words what they're feeling, but they don't know how to put it into words. The same as I think you're doing with your children. And then that's offering other children ways to verbalize what they're feeling, but they don't know how to explain it.
Yeah. Or even where to start. Maybe they want to, but they're scared. Like I said, when I was scared to say I was suicidal because I didn't know what the consequences of that would be on either end. People are just scared often. They don't even know where to start or what's acceptable or what's going to be okay to share. And really what it comes down to is what's going to make you feel better, because that's all that matters. It's like how you're going to be able to get through that.
It's helped you to heal, and it's continuing to help you to heal, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, talking to you, talking to people who are interested in what I have to say, I recognize I carry a lot of guilt with me, and I recognize that all of this is only because my husband passed away. And that's something that I have to bear. Like all of this, we'll call it success, but it's interest and this platform that I've been given is only because I lost the love of my life. That's like a scary and a crazy thing to wrap my head around. But I also recognize that I have this platform and it's going to be there, and I can take advantage of it or I can't. And if I take advantage of it, I have the ability to help other people and maybe to empower other people who are going to be going through the same thing, and letting them see that they really can turn a tragedy into a triumph if they do the work and put themselves into it.
So true. Oh, I can tell that you've done a lot of work, a lot of inner healing. And, I always say healing is a journey. It is a journey. You're going to be healing for the rest of your life from this.
Yeah.
It's not like, oh, I'm healed and I'm done. And, no, it will always be a part of your life and your children's life. And you as a mother, help your children to heal, And so, yeah, I want to thank you so, so much. I could talk to you forever. Like, I just love talking to you and sharing your story and sharing this space with you, because there's so much power when we share our stories and our struggles even. Because when we keep them to ourselves and we have shame and suicidal, that just keeps it in the dark, and that controls us, and it keeps us small and quiet. But one thing I want to ask you about is you just mentioned you have a lot of guilt. Would you like to share a little bit about that in case someone listening is also feeling guilt for some reason, where I look at you and I think, why would you feel guilty? What do you feel guilty about?
I mean, for me, it's that guilt. Well, it's multi-tiered. There's the point of, the night before this dive, he said, I think I'm going to quit the class. I don't like how the class is going, or it's taking time away from you guys as a family. And, you're pregnant, the kids are young, like I can come back to this later. And I said, we're fine. Like, this is something that you want to do. You need to do this for you. I was really trying to encourage him to take the opportunity that I know he wanted. And he looked at me and he said, thank you so much. I don't know how I got so lucky to have you as a wife, but thank you. And I carry guilt with that, because I know without hesitation, if I had said, don't go, quit the class, I want to be selfish because I want tomorrow with you, or I want this time with you. The kids need you. Like, you're being selfish by taking this class. I know without hesitation, he would have said, okay, I'm done. Like, you guys are more important than anything. And I have to live with that. And then also, just like I said, the guilt of having opportunities, like talking to you and, you know, and writing and having a book published. Like, this is all only because I lost him. And there's just guilt carried with that type of like recognition to who I am and what I'm doing, and realizing and recognizing that it's all only because of this tragic incident that happened. And I don't know, I think that's just human nature to carry some of that around with you.
It is very natural. And that's why I wanted you to share that for other people to hear, that we all have guilt in different ways. And it's not that it's not to be judged. It is a feeling that we have to work through and process through in the ways that we know how, in the best ways we know how. And I hear what you're saying, and I honor your feelings, and I honor this, but I also see it as, I know that you would in a second take him back and in place of doing what you're doing.
Yeah. Of course.
So, I mean, I don't see it as, I mean, I see how you feel, but to me, looking at you, I see this as, I know this is not what you asked for, but you are taking this tragedy, you're turning it into something that is you're triumphed over the dark and the pain. You're still processing through it, you're still working through it, but you're not allowing it to take you down also. And that, I just want to commend you for your strength and your courage to speak about it, and to, as you're healing, because, you know, that's the hardest place. You're speaking from your journey of healing and raising 3 children on your own and helping them to heal and to find out who they are and to remember their dada. And I would like, how are you helping your children to remember their dada?
We talk about him every day. I mean, there's pictures all over the house. We watch videos on my phone almost nightly of old home videos. My 5-year-old daughter, she's got pretty vivid memories. They're starting to fade, you know, as time goes on, but she still has like very specific memories of him. And so I make sure to, you know, reinforce those memories and talk about those ones so that they stay active in her mind. My 3-year-old son, he says, you know, I miss Dada. In fact, last night he was standing on the chair of our kitchen table and out of nowhere he just said, I miss Dada. And I said, what? He said, I miss Dada. Oh, I know, I do too. Let's look at pictures. So we look at pictures and we tell stories. And obviously my youngest daughter never got to meet him, but she's got pictures of him, you know, in her room. And he's just very much a part of our lives. I still get to talk about him daily, which was really one of the scariest things, you know, when all of this happened, is I felt like when people in your lives pass away, maybe they're not directly in your life, but when people pass away, you know, there's a big kind of thing around it for like a few weeks or maybe a few months, and then the name kind of drifts away. And Brian was so special and so amazing and such an incredible human being. He's not just my loss and the kids' loss, like he is a loss to humankind. And I don't want people to forget his name and the legacy that he leaves. And so a lot of this is driven from like, listen to what he had to say and look at the life that he lived. And there's a lesson to be learned here. And I just want to keep sharing that and talking about it. And every opportunity that I get, I will talk about it with anyone who will listen.
Thank you so much for sharing and talking to me. And if someone wants to see the videos of Brian that you have, where can they find the videos?
Yeah, it'd be great if you want to visit my website. It's just ashleybugge.com, or on Facebook, I'm Ashley Bugge XO. I will connect and talk and find out what everyone else is going through and share my story. And really, this is all about connection. Nobody's in this alone. If you open yourself up and if you take the time and the opportunity to connect, it really does help a lot.
And do you have a YouTube channel with videos that people can watch?
So I think we have one. I'm not active on it though. It's probably under SB, maybe Sailing Vessel Stay Gold. But the best way to find me is on Facebook or my website.
Okay, and I will have your information in the show notes as well, so they can just click on the link and go to your website. Pretty soon, you're going to have something on your website, I think. So what are you going to have coming up on your website that people can actually order and get?
Well, that would be my very first book. Actually, you can watch the video on my Facebook page of me getting the box of my very first book this week. I am so excited. It was such an emotional experience to open that box for the first time and see it. It's been a year and a half in the making of just literally every emotion, up, down, everything in between, put into this book. It's called Always Coming Back Home. And it'll be available for pre-order May 19th. And I would love to get it out there as much as possible.
And that is the story of you and Brian's life, right? Prior to the accident. Okay.
So it's our entire love story, meeting, falling in love, everything leading up to and including the day he died.
Okay, so that's your book one, which will be available for pre-order on May 19th, 2020.
Yes.
And you have another book you're working on. You said you have book two.
Yes. So book two starts the day he passes away and goes through basically my journey over that first year. So I touch on things like being pregnant and suicidal, moving across an ocean, moving again, having my daughter, having the baby alone, clutching a picture of him to my chest. Kind of the ups and downs of what I experienced having an organ donor recipient of his reach out to me and starting a friendship with her. And then leading up to and including his 1-year memorial dive where we placed that living reef. And then more that we didn't really talk about, but what really pulled me out of that depression was I planned a trip for my kids and I knew deep inside that I needed to plan something, to have something to look forward to. And it ended up being a 2-month-long trip through 8 countries of Europe over the summer. I took all 3 kids with me. We celebrated all of our birthdays in random countries around Europe. We traveled 3 backpacks, 3 car seats, 3 kids. Crazy and amazing. But there's a short documentary film on my Facebook about that as well. I'd love to share with you guys.
Okay.
It was an incredible journey. So the book 2 leads up to and ends in that, and kind of comes full circle of where I'm at and how I've gotten through this past year and a half.
Do you know when that one's going to be released?
It's out. It's on my Facebook and on my website right now.
Book 2.
Oh, I'm sorry. No, I don't. I'm still writing it. I'm writing it right now.
Okay. I cannot wait to read your book, both of them, and to watch your documentary. And have you back on the show. I would love to have you back.
Oh, that'd be amazing.
Yeah, and see like in about a year where you are and what's been happening and have a follow-up if you're up to that.
Absolutely. I would love that.
It has been such a pleasure having you. Is there anything that I haven't asked you that you would like to share?
I don't think so. I just really appreciate your interest in who I am and who my family is and our journey. I really do appreciate you having me on.
Thank you so much. And thank you for being so open and for sharing from your heart. And thank you for your service, for you supporting your husband to serve our country. I just want to take a moment and just say thank you so much. And thank you to Brian for serving the country and in the military, in the Navy, and for you supporting him throughout that journey. And to just thank you for your courage to speak out and let you know that you're a wonderful mother and a strong example to all women. And your children are blessed to have you. And I just pray blessings over you and your family until
the tears just dried up.
Okay, well, I know, but I'm known to make people cry. Like every time someone's with me, they're like, "You make me cry." I said, "Well, that's why it's called Tears to Treasures." But I hope that it's tears of joy as well. And so I just want to thank you again, and I'm looking forward to having you again on the show.
Thank you so much.
Okay. Thank you for listening to Life is a Treasure podcast. I'm Michelle Durant, and I'd like to personally invite you to join us and continue the conversation in our free Facebook group, Life is a Treasure podcast. The link will be in the show notes at lifeisatreasure.com. You can also find my social media links on the website as well. Please reach out to me and introduce yourself. I'd love to hear where you're listening from and what your biggest takeaways have been. And as we begin to share our secrets, our stories, and our struggles, we find that others can have the courage to start sharing theirs. And this is how the healing process begins. So please help us spread the hope and the healing to others by subscribing, reviewing, and sharing this podcast. And make sure to tag me on Instagram at Michelle Marie with 2 E's, Durand, Durand, with hashtag Life is a Treasure podcast for a chance to get a shout out on the show. And also visit lifeisatreasure.com for all the resources and freebies mentioned. We believe that everyone is equal and worthy of healing and unconditional love. And we promise that if you invest your time and energy to do the inner work, you too can transform yourself and create a life that is a treasure. So you can live authentically, love unconditionally, and laugh wholeheartedly. And until next week, peace, love, and joy.